Hey guys, Karsh from OneTap. So this is a video series around how specific customers use OneTap. So it's part of our case study series. So I'm recording this video to go over how they set up OneTap and then talk about how specific check-in processes look like inside of like real businesses that use OneTap and how we help them keep track of attendance. So today we'll be talking about Frolic Art Studio. I went and visited them, one of my favorite customers. They're located in the suburbs of Dallas. So they offer like art, basically art and like curriculum-based art classes, and they help a lot of like nonprofit. Well, they do some nonprofit work. They help like underprivileged kids and adults, and it's pretty cool just to see kids come in, paint, and there's always like a big show. So there's always like a lot of people, a lot of kids there, and they're always parents are dropping them off, picking them up. There's multiple sessions going on. Adults also come in on weekends and stuff. So we're going to talk about how Frolic Art Studio uses it. So let's go to our whiteboard. So the background is that it's an art school, and students pay membership fees by month, semester, or year, I guess. And they also have in-person classes, so they do like nonprofit things as well, like I mentioned. And then yeah, parents are involved in dropping off kids. So what were they doing before, right? So we needed to keep. Well, let's talk about why take attendance first. So if you're in art school, you probably want to see who's active. So you want to see how many classes kids are attending, which teachers are like teaching classes. So you want to probably like know the attendance for kids based on different types of, based on different teachers that are there. You also want to keep track of progress of like students. For example, like you want to know, hey, the students checked in maybe like 10 times last month, or maybe like 20 times. So they attended all their classes. Also maybe upload a photo of their work so you can see if they're progressing or not. Maybe keep track of extra hours. So for example, are they attending extra sessions or extra hours? And then this is also pretty cool, like emails for like missing students. So like reminders, like, hey, maybe you didn't show up, or maybe you haven't been showing up for class, or you missed today's class, etc. So this is probably done by like an admin. Well, this stuff can be delegated to an admin who's running your business or who's helping you out. Then you have parents who want to see the attendance data sometimes. So maybe if the parent is like, hey, how many times did my kid attend this month for billing purposes? And that kind of also leads into billing and keeping track of a number of classes. So maybe you want to know, this person has attended 5 classes, 10 classes. So like they've used up their pass that we've sold to them. So those are some ideas behind for example, real life examples behind why take attendance. Now, before trying OneTap, how were they doing it before? So they tried building an attendance system in-house, and they tried like even like fingerprinting hardware and like stuff like that from China. And then like they, for example, kept track of passes like on like a paper sheet, like binders and stuff like that, to see how many classes a student has used. And also just imagine like, paying maybe someone like $60 a day to do attendance, right? So those were like some of the challenges they're running into, and something that's common across US businesses because labor is pretty expensive, and also just really need a dedicated person who keeps track of attendance. Sometimes in schools and stuff, we hear people talk about like the roles of attendance officer. So it's like, yeah, it's just like a dedicated person who's going to be doing it. Then also think about like scanning pieces of paper sheets and inputting them in manually. So like if that person is remote, you have to take all the attendance log and send it over to them just so they can put all this data into Excel and keep all this data into a nice sheet that can be used. Now, why now, right? That's also like another question that we ask a lot of our clients and customers. So a lot of times people are trying to scale up their business. They want to open up more locations, or maybe they just can't deal with attendance anymore because there's more kids coming in, and there's just like more instructors. There's like more discipline that needs to happen, and more systems that need to be installed, or like standard processes for things to scale. So that's usually when OneTap comes in, because a lot of times people have like few kids, like 5 or 10 kids, and it probably doesn't make too much sense if you were to use a digital app versus paper and pencil sheets. Obviously, if you'd love to recommend that, like, using a digital system, because that is just it sets up the right foundation. And, in my personal experience helping a lot of different clients and customers, I would say getting the data digital and getting people into the habit of like following an attendance and a check-in process is like the number one thing that will be like, it just builds a habit, and then it helps your business scale and grow. So it's like a pretty big deal just to have people get in the habit of things and keeping data organized. And it's pretty important data, because you want to keep the stuff not only just for billing and like for your own, like analytics and for your own reports. Obviously, those are huge because that tells you how your business is doing, how it's growing, and then also helps you like look up students and kind of do stuff like billing and emails and all that. But It also is like a really good legal practice as well, because when you're dealing with kids and you're dealing with like minors, you definitely want to have like logs of like what's going on, so that in case something happens, you have like solid proof and you're pretty safe. Now let's talk about what do you want to see on the reports. Like if we take if we set up an attendance process, we definitely want to see how many times like a student is attended for a given month. We want to also know who's not attended so we can follow up, like the same stuff as here. We want to see all the check-ins that took place today, how many students, for example, from level 1 have checked in. That's also something that's cool that you can find out from the reports. How many hours was like the child there, and maybe who's checked in for certain 5 p.m. class and all that. So we're going to be coming back to this on the report side, but let's go into like how to set up OneTap. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start from a brand new account and let's dig in and let's see how I would do this whole setup from scratch. So I have my account right here on this dashboard. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is when I'm trying to help someone set up OneTap for their organization or their business, I'm trying to understand how do you want to break up this data, right? For example, in the case of this art center, we want to obviously like look at attendance by like unique days, right? Maybe by like classes and courses. So first I'm trying to figure out like, are we talking about, for example, like what groups of people are we looking to track, right? These are the questions that I'm internally asking, and then based on that, I'm going to recommend how to create these lists. So what groups of people, for example, like what days / like time slots. So basically like, what are the classes that are going on? And then I'm trying to understand like what are the factors that help us break up this data. For example, like what instructors in this case are taking attendance. And it really depends on like the granularity of how you organize this. Really depends on like how sophisticated your business is. For example, if you just like literally only have like few classes that are going on and like you only have like 3 or 4 instructors, you don't really need to worry. Maybe 2 or 3 instructors, or you don't even care about who's teaching what class. It doesn't really matter. In this case, what I do is like, for example, I would say like let's start off with a group. So let's just say, for example, if we have like young kids, right? Maybe like let's just say they're like 5 to 10 year olds, right? So I would create a list, for example, based on that group or based on the time session. So for example, you can have a list like literally based on all 3 criteria. So you can say, for example, like art class 5 p.m. and you can say instructor is going to be maybe like Tim, for example, and then you can say like this maybe Tim teaches like many different groups, right? So art class 5 p.m. for like 10-year-olds, right? Maybe like 7 to 10. Age 7 to 10, Tim. So you see how like I'm kind of like segmenting all this like into different lists, because when we pull off the reports, we can just be like, hey, I just want to know like Tim's data. We can obviously look at all the reports all together, like just all the attendance data all in one, like for example, like with our full report, and we can do all sorts of custom breakdowns and stuff like that. But when it comes to lists, you just want to organize it based on who's really taking attendance and how they're, and then like how like, and then you want to group it into like each sort of segment into a specific list. So let's just to keep things simple, let's just go into their specific use case. So I believe they were setting it up with like literally like 5 p.m. and they just did instructor. They didn't do the age level. So I'm just gonna say art classes attendance for (5 p.m. session). Yeah, and then what you want to do is you want to make this a recurring list, so it's going to repeat Monday through Friday, or on the days that you teach. So in this case, for example, I believe they just had like Monday, let's just say Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, okay? It's like 3 days of the week. Hit continue, and then the check-in method is just tap, and then they want to do checkouts because they want to keep track of hours as well. So like they want to know like, okay, this person checked in, this person checked out, and then the number of hours they attended. Also, they want to be able to like add custom things to the checkout process, such as photos and all that. So we're gonna go ahead and create the list right now, and the recurring list, it's gonna pop up the modal explaining how this works. And recurring lists, just to do a little bit of a recap because I made a specific video about recurring lists and how that works. So if you create a single list, it's basically for like a single meetup, like for example, for a single class attendance for a single day. When you do a recurring list, our system automatically follows the schedule and creates a brand new child list based on the days of the week. So for example, we got one over here, for example, for September the 25th, because today's Wednesday. And then on Friday, that's going to be 27th. The system will automatically create a new list for the 27th on like the night before. And so you got the parent list right here. So this is the parent list, and that's the one that's meant to be used for like roster. So as in like if you want to pre-populate this, you don't have to do this, but if you want to like pre-populate this so that certain people that are coming in, for example, are like already kind of put into the class. So for example, I only have like maybe 4 people here that are always coming in, or that are attending this session. I can just pre-add them in here, pre-add them into the list. And then the child list as well for the first day. And then for the subsequent days, what will happen is whenever the list is getting created, it will automatically take the names from the parent list. So it will automatically take those 4 names from this list right here, and we'll copy it into the next child list. And the child list will show up right here. So it will say 27th, and it will have like 27's date on it. And then you do the check-ins. So you do like, for example, check-ins based on which day of based on like the list date. For example, today I'm going to do check-ins for the September 25th. And you don't want to do check-ins on the parent list. We don't really recommend it, even though if you do it, it doesn't really hurt anything, because at the end of the day, it's all like timestamps and you can filter stuff later. But we just recommend leaving the parent list as it is, and then going into the child list and then doing it. Now, so we're going to go into like today's list, September 25th. And we're gonna go over here and we're gonna start like the whole check-in process. So we already created a list for separate instructors, and we're also probably going to import profiles, probably something I should discuss before adding those names in there. So you can drag and drop an Excel sheet of like people. I made a specific video about this, how you can format the Excel sheet, and it's literally just like based on the Excel columns. So for example, I have like age groups here, I have like emergency contacts, I have like, for example, groups here. So like maybe if I want to, these are all custom fields, group sizes as well, nickname as well, these are all custom fields. But if you wanted to add another field here, for example, let's just say like level, right? So you can go over here and you can do add custom field, and let's just say, for example, like level, and I want to say these are like level 1 students, and then like level 2, level 3, and those are the only 3 levels that we offer. So we can add that as a list property, and then now that becomes available for all the profiles. So I can go over here and I can take, for example, like Lucas, and I can say level 2, he's in level 2. And the same thing with like birthdays here, like you can add like a date field here, so date, and so like date, and then you can say birthday, and then like save it, and then we can add like, for example, birthday for Lucas. So we can say like, for example, he was born on January 1st, 2000. Yeah. So, and then these are the passes that are the unique QR codes that are given to them. But in this specific video, we're just gonna talk about a check-in process that, that they're actually using and how they're doing it. So let's go into, so once you've imported this, again, later there's going to be like specific help desk there are specific help desk articles and videos there on how to format the file and how to get all this data imported. And so yeah, as soon as we've done that, we're going to go over to the list tab, and we're going to pick the 5 p.m. class, and we're also going to pick another class. We're also going to make another class. We're going to say art class at 8 p.m. okay, and we're going to say this is taught by like John. This to 8 p.m. and then set this to, for example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Checkout process, the same as that. Okay, so how do we do the check-ins? So in this case, how they're doing check-ins is by basically printing the QR code and sharing the check-in link. So what you can do is like, when you have a recurring list, so there's different ways to check in, and I've kind of made separate videos about that and explaining all that. So basically you have the visitor side check-ins, so which means that like you want the visitors to do it themselves. Then you have admin side check-ins, which is like through the dashboard and the iOS app. So if you or your team members are doing the check-ins and it's like kind of like it's only for you guys to like verify the student and then do the check-in, then you want to be on the admin side. On the visitor side, it's more like you just trust the visitors, like the students, to do it themselves. This is a little bit of a hybrid, by the way, where we're using the visitor method, but the admin is doing it. So it's a little bit of it's a little bit of a mix. So I'm going to talk about how that works, and that's why this use case is kind of interesting here. So the way that they want to do check-ins is by having like Tim, the instructor, or like John, like in different instructors, basically check in their students. So they do it by group. So like you'll have like literally like tables, and then like people will be like sitting there, and then like it'll be like 4 or 5 different groups based on each instructor, and each instructor is in charge of like their group of students. So how you would want to do that is by hitting this share check-in link button, and you're gonna get this unique QR code, and this QR code is for that list. So this is on the public check-in side. So this is on this side right here, public check-in and public check-in QR code. And what we do is that we're just gonna go ahead and like print this, put this up on a wall, or just send it to them. Just hit the copy link and send it to them via like a WhatsApp group chat or like email or whatever. And then like literally just tell them like, hey, this is your link for your group of students, and this is for the 8 p.m. one. So if there's teaching multiple sessions, be like, that's for the 8 p.m. one. Here's another one for like 2 p.m. And then this one unique QR code and this one link stays the same for all the different days. So that's also really important. So let's just say we're teaching like one semester, for example, started in September and goes up until December. It's going to be the same link that's just going to be there. If for any reason you do want to change it, and for example, for some, I don't know, like for some security reasons, maybe like they just, maybe this link got out there, or like, you just get some junk data in there, you can always create a new link. But yeah, this link stays the same. And now once they click on the link, so this is what they're going to see. This is what the instructor is going to see. The instructor is going to see that says art class 8 p.m. John, and September 25th, which is today's date. So the QR code automatically forwards over to like the newest, or like the most latest list, so like the most recent list. And to do the check-ins, here's how they do it. What they do is they have students go over here and like they just have like the instructor will go over there and then find their student's name. So let's say, for example, you want to have like Lucas over here checking in. So John's going to check in Lucas. Just search for Lucas, hit continue, hit register and check in. And that's it. And they can also take a photo and add it right there. But for right now, for example, add a check-in note. So over here, you can also like add like a check-in note right here. So for example, in this case, they don't use check-in notes. Maybe for some small stuff, like maybe like showed up late, for example, 15 minutes. That's also like a check-in note that the instructor can add over there. And this is like the pass that belongs to Lucas. We're not really going to use that because because the instructor just already did the check-in. So this is like the individual pass for Lucas. So don't worry about that. Just ignore it. Hit the done button, and then then you're back to the beginning. Now if you want to check in the second student, for example, like Ethan, continue, check in, and that's it. And there's no check-in notes we're gonna add right now. And so if we go over to the admin side, we go to the lists, and if we go into like John's list, we can see that there's 2 people, and then there's 2 people checked in. So yeah, 2 out of 2. So 5:51 p.m., 5:51 p.m. Now we as the admin can inspect more, and we can look at more and more data here. For example, we can take a look at like the person's custom fields and all that. Obviously, these are the things that we've set up. We can add levels there. We can be like, hey, he's in level 2. That was missing before. And then over here, we can add notes about that person. So for example, these are like the universal notes. These are not check-in notes. For example, like Ethan, Ethan's like maybe, I don't know, for example, like Ethan's birthday is coming up. Also, maybe like a better note here would be like Ethan's membership renews on like 8-2, right? 2024. So that's an example. And then we can also add all sorts of stuff here, like if it's you can mark the profile as a favorite, etc. And then this is also pretty cool. You can add custom check-in notes, check-in fields here, which I'm gonna make another video about that. But for right now, let's just keep it basic. Then you have check-in details here. So like when the check-in took place, then you have the method, and then the link that was used, and then the check-in note. So over here for Lucas, we left a check-in note, and we can see that right here, showed up 15 minutes late. Also, we can take a look at the IP address and all that, like where the check-in was done. This is a little bit more technical, but you can also see the location there as well, if the location is enabled on the check-in link. Yeah, and then we can figure out the attendance data, which we're gonna dig into a little bit later. So that's basically the whole check-in process. This side is like all instructor, just kind of typing in the names, doing check-ins. The instructor can also register new students, but we typically tell people to turn that off, just because if you already have imported in the Excel file, you don't want people like kind of messing with that. So you go over here to the check-in link, settings, and you can turn this off. What you'll do is you'll just say existing profiles only. So like that turns it off. So only existing people can check in. And then by name, by default, we're not using like codes or anything like that. I made a specific video about all this. And then enabling attendance history for visitors, maybe you want to disable it if you don't want people to see during the whole process. There's a button there that will show them the attendance history from before. And then the node, we're gonna enable it, the check-in node and the checkout node. Okay, and then just hit the save button. Yeah, and also, by the way, if you wanted to add restrictions over here, which is also pretty cool, you could add a restriction that says, okay, I only want to allow check-ins between like 8 p.m. or maybe like 50 p.m. all the way to like in the local time zone, all the way to like maybe 8:30 p.m. because I just don't want like maybe records getting in there. I don't want maybe the instructor checking in people late because they have to talk to me to be able to check in people late. You can do that over here. You can also add a location restriction that says I only want check-ins to take place inside like my business area. There's another video that's specifically made about this, so I'm just gonna like leave those. Yeah, and then let's dig into the next thing here. So how do we do checkouts, right? So the instructor did the check-ins and we're getting all this data right here. Now, how does the instructor do checkouts? So checkouts is pretty much the same as the same exact process. So over here you have Ethan and Lucas. So let's just take a third person. Let's just take like Oliver. And by the way, if we come over here and we reload the page, after turning off the registration settings, we should be able to see that as well. Yep, so the registration button's gone. And then we're gonna go over here, so we're gonna pick Oliver and we're gonna check out Oliver. So we're gonna go over here and what we need to do is we need to enable the we need to go over here and we need to do the settings, and we need to do the existing profiles only instead of having it be closed. So that way, like, yeah, people that are already in the database can check in. So Oliver Scott, continue, and then register and check in. So that's the first time. And then to do the checkouts, we just do the same thing again. The instructor will just like kind of pull up the link and then kind of type in the student's name, and then do checkout. So even though this is like visitor facing, what we're doing is we're basically giving it to the admin to do the check-ins and checkouts. And this is where they can add a photo and a note. So they can say something like stayed, for example, plus like maybe 1 hour, right? So maybe if they wanted some extra help, they can add that as a note here. And then they can also take a photo. So this is pretty cool because you can click on this and you can take a photo of the painting that they've made. So let me show you how that works. So as soon as you hit the camera button over there, you're gonna see the camera over here. So you can just snap a photo, and you can also turn the camera around. In this case, I'm on a laptop, so I can't turn it around. And then just take a photo of the art and then attach it. In this case, I'm just gonna do a photo of myself. And then hit the done button, and that's it. So like now if we go back to our list right here, and we go into the specific list, we can hit the refresh button right here, and then we can take a look at Oliver, and then we can see that they've checked in and they've checked out at 5:57, and here's like the time elapsed. So over here, for example, we go over to the checkout detail section and we can see the timestamps. So we can also adjust the timestamps here, which is also another pointer here. So let's say, for example, they really checked out at 6. You can kind of manually, you can go ahead and adjust that. And let's just say, for example, they checked in at 5 p.m. and then they checked out at 6. So the time elapsed is going to be 1 hour. And then it tells you how they checked out, and then here's a photo as well of the checkout, and then there's a checkout note there as well that tells you that they've stayed for extra 1 hour. And this is all going to be exported on the reports so that the person who's doing attendance would be able to look at all this data and be able to analyze it. Now, so that's basically the verification process as the admin, how you would go on the admin dashboard and be able to verify that. On the iOS app, there's also a way to see this, like when you're in the studio, when you're, for example, you don't have access to a laptop. So let me show you how the iOS app will look. So we have the iPhone on the left hand side, and then we have the iPad on the right. Over here, if you click on the little folder button, and on the iPhone it just starts off on the same screen. You can go ahead and select the class. So we can say John, art class by John, September 25th, and then same thing over here. And then we can see all the check-ins that took place that day. So if I click on Oliver, be able to see, for example, all the different check-in data right here. So like, for example, like the notes, like the photo, and then like all that. And then if we go back into the activities page, if we go to the activities page for the first time, we'll be able to see all the different check-ins that are taking place inside my business, and then when they're taking place. So if I click on today, I'll be able to see all of today's check-ins. So I can see that, for example, 3 people have checked in today, and be able to see that this person is checked out. So if I click on it, be able to see all the detail as well, like the photo and all that. And I can also adjust like the time and stuff like that by going on the dashboard, by going on this app right here and being able to click on it and being able to change all the timestamps and all that. Now, yeah, so this is like a quick way to kind of do like a count. So if you want to do a count of how many people are in the studio, how many people are checked in, how many people have yet to check out, that's also something that you can see right here. So if you go on check-ins, you'll be able to see just check-ins and check-outs. You'll be able to see that total number of check-outs, and then you can do some math off that. So that's pretty cool, like in terms of being in the studio, being, for example, on the ground, being on your feet, being able to quickly figure out how many people are missing, how many people have checked in, etc. And you can also like look up a specific profile's attendance history. So if you wanted to, so if you're kind of curious, you're like, hey, how many times did this person check in? So you can click on that person, and then you can go to their profile page, click on view attendance, and it will show you all the times that they've checked in and when and where they've checked in. You can also go to the profiles tab, look up that person, see all their information, like their custom fields. For example, if you want to add in a custom field that says, like level, like we talked about how to add levels and all that. So you can, for example, go over here, you can change the level here on the iOS app, and you can also click on the attendance button and then be able to see how many times they've been seen. So for example, this person's been seen once, and this person, for example, has not been seen at all. So so you can quickly figure that out. And then now let's talk about how to do how to run reports, right? Probably the most important thing. So we can export individual day reports by clicking on the export attendance, and I'll show you what that looks like. We're just gonna say download only this list because we just want to like look at this list data, and then I'm gonna hit download. And then over here, this is like the report that we're gonna get. So we're gonna go over here, we're just gonna say format autofit column width, and we'll be able to see, okay, this is the email address and this is the person. So this is like all the primary fields. I made a whole specific video about reports and then like what columns go there and how this works. So these are all the primary fields. So I'm just gonna put this, like, for example, in like orange color. And then the checked in yes, this is where we start seeing, for example, data such as like, let's do insert cut cells, yeah. And then this is also part of the primary field, if they're favorite or not. Checked in yes is part of your check-in field. So this is like all the check-ins data. When they were added in the list, this isn't that important. We're gonna delete it. So check-in date, we can see that it's 6:51 p.m. in my time zone. And also what we can see over here is like if they've checked out. Checked out, in this case I only checked out one person, so I can see that right there. And then I can look at the device ID. So this isn't really that important. This is more like kind of technical stuff. How they checked in, maybe we don't really care too much about that, so we're gonna get rid of all this. And then the IP address and all that. The check-in link, the link that was used to do the check-in, so we can kind of confirm that, hey, like the links that we're distributing are the ones that are used to do the check-ins. We're gonna delete that as well. Checked in by, this is gonna be like the user that actually did the check-in. So if you have multiple collaborators on the account, it's gonna be that. And then checked out by is gonna be the same thing over here. It's like there's like more data related to check-in, so I'm just gonna put this like in a different color, like maybe put this like in a green color right here. Then afterwards we have the check-in custom check-in notes. So this is also gonna be in green, meaning that this is where all the notes go. That like if someone has left a note, and then the age and then all this type of stuff is all again part of the custom fields. So I'm just gonna say I'm just gonna put this like in orange right here. And then we have the age, which is also computed from birthday, by the way. Our system automatically computes that, puts it in a bracket right here. This is different than the custom field age that was already there. Just delete it for right now. And then the birthday is like a custom field that we've entered as well. So now what you want to do is you want to look at the check-in note, and then the custom check-in note was actually a custom field, so ignore that. So you want to like look at the check-in note. So it says showed up by 15 minutes. So it's super important for us. So we can take a look at that, and we can say checkout note. So that's also like if you want to know who stayed beyond the end time of the class, we can we can also see that right here. Then the elapsed time is also like the elapsed time is the time difference in minutes between the check-in and the checkout. So super useful as well if we're trying to do like time tracking and all that. And then there's the photos and stuff that were taken during the check-in checkout process. Don't really need that. It just has like the link to the photo. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much just like the report for a specific class for a specific day. Now let's talk about how this report is going to look. For example, if you want to look at it over a period of classes. And also let's look at the advanced report, which is going to give us a lot more data so we can create pivot tables and all that. So to keep the video short, I'm gonna only focus on the full report, because with this report you can build all the other different types of reports. So this is across multiple different lists that I have. So I'm just gonna go ahead and like download it, And pretty much like the same exact structure that we saw with the individual report, it's basically just that. It's giving you like literally like a entry, like it's literally giving you like each single check-in record and all the information about that person. It's giving you like all this and then it's also giving you on this full report here, it's giving you like the list that they've checked into. So we can just like call it class name or like the name of the class, and then like class master class. So like if this is part of like, for example, this is like the September the 25th, right? But over here we have like, you know, like the actual name of the course, which is like the art class at 8 p.m. And then you have different columns here, like if they've checked in, they've checked out, and then the check-in date, checkout date, and then the methods that was used. So we don't really want to dig it too much into the methods and all that. We do want to have check-in notes to be able to kind of like break this down later. And then the checkout notes, which is also kind of important to us. The photo and all that, we don't really need it. Neither do we need any of this other information, such as the user who did the check-in and all that. Maybe the age is something that we would need because we want to maybe figure out like by demographic level. So I'm just going to move all those right here. And then the nickname, we don't really need that. Group size, we're not using those custom fields. Age. Yeah, and let's say like level as well. Like, yeah, we have the level, there's a custom field too, so that's over here. Emergency contact, birthday, don't need that. So yeah, just to kind of do a little bit of a cleanup here. So we're gonna take name, super important, class, and then like the master class, checked in, checked out, and then the check-in date, checkout date, check-in notes, checkout notes, age. Yeah, so this is like the final version of the formatted file. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use Google Sheets, because Google Sheets is pretty much the same as Excel, but it just it's something that it's just something that I'm more familiar with. So I'm going to get this imported into Google Sheets. And we're going to go over here. We're just going to import this, and then we're going to say view and freeze one row, so that way all that is kind of headers right there, and then get rid of this stuff at like at the bottom that says when the report was generated and all that. And then yeah, I just want to go over here and then just do resize columns, fit to data, that way it looks a little bit more clean. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and we're going to make a pivot table out of this. So what we want to do is we want to select all this. I'm not a master at pivot tables, but I just know the basics right here. So we're just going to go ahead and select all this, and then we're going to say insert pivot table. And then we're going to say new sheet. So that's going to put a pivot table right here. Now let's dig into how we can break down this data. So this is like one example. What I've done is I've taken the row right here. So like, for example, like I've taken the different classes. So 5 p.m. class by Tim, and then the 8 p.m. class by John. And what I'm doing is I'm just looking at, like, for example, like the check-in date. So I just did filter by check-in date is not empty. So we're only seeing all the check-in records. We're not seeing people who never checked in, who just registered onto the list. And then we're looking at the values right here of like how many times they've checked in. So over here we can see that, like, and I did modify the data just a little bit just to make it just to make it a little bit better for us to view. So over here we have the 5 p.m. class by Tim, and we can see that 4 people have checked in. And if we go over here, we can also kind of verify that the 5 p.m. class, there's 4 people, and then the rest of them are right there as well. And then yeah, so we can see that the 8 p.m. class, 3 people have checked in, and then one of them is blank, which means it doesn't have like the class name over here, which probably is like an individual list. Now what we can do is we can also, in this pivot table right here, we can also like look at the grand total. So it's like a quick breakdown of like how many people checked in by like the entire class. And this can be, for example, done for an entire semester if I want to know how many people total checked in into like the 5 p.m. Tim session. And just as easily, if I wanted to see like the level, or like, for example, which levels are checking in the most. For example, like level 1, I only have 1 person checking in, and then these are the students who've checked in who don't have levels on them. So let's say, for example, hypothetically, if I go right here and if I give everyone like for example, like a level right here. So for example, if you have Oliver, who's in level 1, and yeah, you do this in OneTap. I'm just giving an example of like how you can kind of like do this, like how the report is going to look, and then the data, and then how you would make reports out of that. Yep, so I added some levels right here to the people who've checked in. And then if I go to the pivot table, I can immediately see that like level 1, I have 2 check-ins, and then I have 2 check-ins on level 2, and then 4 check-ins on level 3. And let's say if you wanted to like look at which day of the week people are checking in into, there's a little bit of a formula right here. I'm gonna put these on the community post. So basically you want to have this formula, which I actually got from ChatGPT. Basically it's just taking this text value right here, which has time zone and everything on it, and it's just literally making it into like a date. And then so like 9:25, and then here's Wednesday, like the check-in day. Just for an example right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and change a few of these just into like 9:24, 9:23, and then we're gonna like look at the breakdown by the number of check-ins that have taken place by like the day of the week. So I just changed a few of these dates around just so we can get like a little bit more variation right there. And then you just go over here and you just say rows, and instead of like having the check-in date be there, you just say check-in day, and then there we go. We have like how many students, like how many check-ins have taken place on Fridays versus Tuesdays versus Wednesdays. Let us know if you're like looking to kind of get some more specific types of like information out of these reports, and then we'll make like specific videos about that. But with pivot tables, pretty much you can do a lot of stuff. Like you can break down the data in many different ways. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. We went over how to create a check-in process. We went over how to get the data into the system, and then how to download this data, how to preview the data, and then how to get like the final numbers behind our business to be able to understand who's checking in, how many times are they checking in. Also, I guess one more thing here is that if you wanted to identify people who checked in late, you can do that with filters right here. So you can add a filter that says, okay, like I want to look at like the time right here, so the time component, and figure out who checked in afterwards, or after like a certain period of time. You can also look at people who didn't show up by filtering this out by checked in no. So if they're on the list but they never showed up, that's also like another thing that you guys can do. Those are pretty easy. If we just go over to filter right here and we just say give me all the people who are no, and then it will tell you all the people. I modified these, so obviously these these fields are there, but it would just say that these are the people that have basically that are on the list but who have never checked in. And we can also put a format right here that says, okay, we only want to like look at people on 9:25, and then all of a sudden we get the people who are who should have checked in but did not check in on the 9:25 list. Cool. Yeah, let us know on the community post what type of reports, what type of data you guys are looking to get out of OneTap, and then we'll make specific videos about that. Thanks.